Under the overcast sky, Issei Hyoudou, a typical high schooler, lounges peacefully with his two friends, Matsuda and Motohama. They curse their bad luck, having failed to impress any girls. Known as the trio of perversion, they can't resist peeking into the girls' changing room. But Issei seems to be the embodiment of misfortune. The girls discover him, and they decide to teach him a lesson he'll never forget. Seething with anger, Issei makes it clear that he's far from pleased with his friend's strategic retreat. Frustrated, he glances upward, and through a window, he spots Rias Gremory, a goddess with vibrant crimson hair and soothing blue eyes, observing him. She enters and learns from Akeno Himejima that Issei is a second-year student. As evening falls and Issei enjoys the serene sunset, Yuma Amano, a girl from his school, courageously asks him to be her boyfriend. Issei hits the jackpot and, like any man, introduces his new girlfriend to his best buds, making them feel betrayed. One lucky Sunday, Issei, meticulously groomed, stands on the street when a mysterious girl approaches him, handing him a strange paper with a circle drawing on it. Ignoring the paper, he enjoys a playful date with his newfound treasure. However, as the evening progresses, Issei senses it's time to make the move. To his shock, Yuma transforms into a demon-like creature and stabs him in his tracks. Before departing, she reveals that he's a hindrance to their master plan. With blood running through his hands and his life force ebbing away, Issei's thoughts turn to Ria's crimson hair and her captivating allure. Out of nowhere, Rias Gremory appears through a red magic circle, with wings on her back, promising to fulfill his dying wish. The following day, Issei wakes up, convinced that everything he had experienced was merely a dream. He goes about his daily routine but notices changes in his body as night falls. As he rushes back to the same spot, he realizes that he had been killed the previous night. Suddenly, a strange fallen angel attacks Issei from behind, mistaking him for a stray demon. Just in time, Rias, the future head of the Gremory household, and her companions intervene, clarifying the misunderstanding and rescuing Issei. The next morning, Issei wakes up thinking it had all been a dream, until he sees Rias in his bed. As he wakes up, Rias casually reveals that Issei belongs to her. He hears his mom coming from downstairs and rushes to cover up stuff, but it seems he's too late. The awkward moment begins as Rias casually chats with Issei's mom. Shocked, she rushes downstairs, yelling at his father and revealing what she saw in Issei's bedroom. After everything settles down, Rias informs him that the wound he received last night was real and fatal, but somehow he recovered overnight. A while later, Issei walks to school alongside Rias, and suddenly he's attracting the attention of all the girls. As the day progresses, Issei finishes all of his classes, and just then, Yuto Kiba, the golden boy every girl desires, enters the classroom. He calmly walks over to Issei's desk, informing him about Rias' summon. Together they go to the occult research club, where Issei meets Kaneko Tojo and Akeno, the vice president. Rias steps out of the shower and explains the whole angel, devil, and fallen angel business to Issei. According to her, devils of the underworld are targeted by both angels and fallen angels, both trying to please God. Upon further inquiry, Rias goes on to reveal that Yuma was a fallen angel sent to kill Issei, since he possesses power known as the Sacred Gear. Despite knowing this, Issei fails to summon his new power. Rias then orders Issei to finish some personal deliveries, but he's not thrilled about being the delivery guy until Rias informs him that he can have servants of his own, but it depends on his performance. This newfound detail excites Issei, and he rushes out to complete his deliveries. After finishing all of his tasks, Issei makes his way back to the club, but things don't go as planned, as Kalawarna jumps the gun, intending to kill him. Cornered, Issei heeds Rias' early advice regarding his powers. With determination, he focuses on his arms and successfully activates his sacred gear. The sudden power surge strikes fear into Kalawarna, prompting her to hastily flee from the scene. The next day, while walking to school, Issei encounters Asia Argento, a beautiful blonde nun from the local church. Being new in town, Asia politely asks him to lead her to the church. Issei sees this as a chance to impress her and acts like a gentleman, accompanying her to the church. However, as they draw closer to the church, his devil instincts kick in, hinting at potential danger. Unfortunately, Issei dismisses these instincts as foolish paranoia. Later, Rias clarifies the situation to Issei. She explains that the church is their enemy, training exorcists to purify devils, and how some of these exorcists possess sacred gears. Moments later, Rias is notified of a stray demon in their area. Issei learns that these stray demons are those who have killed off their masters to gain freedom and are known for their tendency to consume their victims. The team decides to infiltrate the demon's lair. On the way, Rias explains that each member of the household represents a piece on a chessboard. As they confront the demon, Kiba, the knight, showcases his exceptional speed. Then Kaneko, the rook, demonstrates her unmatched strength, followed by Akeno, the queen, who employs her magic. Out of nowhere, the demon sneaks up on Rias. Issei takes the initiative and defends his master. Akeno follows with her attack, and finally, Rias sends the demon to the abyss. As the battle ends, Issei excitedly asks Rias about his title, but is left in depression after discovering he's a pawn, since, pawns don't get chicks. Upon returning to the club, Rias asks Issei to handle a summon request on behalf of Kaneko. Later, Issei finds an exorcist who has brutally murdered the summoner. Before Issei can process things before him, the exorcist begins to target him. Just as he's about to finish Issei off, Azia, the nun from earlier, appears on the scene. Despite learning the truth about Issei, she tries to protect him. This act of defiance frustrates the exorcist, as devils are their sworn enemies. Infuriated, Issei lands a powerful strike on him, but it depletes his remaining strength. Sensing this, the exorcist prepares for a final attack. Fortunately, the rest of the Gremory household arrives and threaten the exorcist, but are forced to leave due to the arrival of fallen angels, leaving Azia behind. As the following dawn breaks, Issei can't shake the memory of Azia's tearful eyes and curses his own powerlessness. Motivated, he heads back to the park to further enhance his physical abilities. Unexpectedly, Issei runs into Azia. The two decide to hang out and avoid discussing the events of the previous night. After a satisfying meal and a lot of fun at the arcade, Issei and Azia find a quiet spot to sit down. There she reveals that the church took her in at a very young age, and one day she suddenly manifested the ability to heal living beings. Impressed by her gift, they transferred her to a larger church. However, tragedy struck when she unknowingly healed a demon. This marked a turning point in her life, as church members labeled her as a witch. In the end, she had no choice but to run away and join the fallen angels. Their heartfelt conversation is interrupted by Renare, who had posed as Yuma earlier. Issei initially activates his sacred gear, however, unlike Kalawarna, Renare is unfazed by his powers. Instead, she educates Issei, revealing that his sacred gear is also called the Dragon Hand, and at this point, it can only double his powers. Issei decides to follow her advice and double his power, but Renare isn't like the other foolish villains who wait for their opponents to power up. She strikes him down instantly, forcing Azia to come with her. Back in the occult club, Issei informs everyone about their current situation. However, Rias isn't pleased with the news. She asks Issei to stay put and continues her lecture while Akeno secretly whispers something to Rias, and they both leave. Issei shows signs of obliviousness as he intends to help Azia on his own, but Kiba and Kaneko refuse to let him face danger alone. The trio confidently barges into the church and reunites with the creepy exorcists, who receive a beating when Issei promotes himself to the rook. Meanwhile, outside, both Rias and Akeno have trapped 3 fallen angels, preventing them from intervening in the battle inside the church. Inside the church, Issei and the others rush to the basement, where Renare extracts Azia's sacred gear, Twilight Healing, from her body, ultimately killing her. Issei rushes over to Azia while Kaiba and Kaneko are engaged with a herd of exorcists. Seeing his resolve and determination, Renare releases Azia from her chains as a reward. Despite doing this, she continues to taunt Issei for falling into her trap. Due to his own powerlessness, Issei carries her outside the basement. On the other hand, outside the church, the fallen angels taunt Issei, unleashing the wrath of Rias Gremory upon them. Meanwhile, inside the church, cornered, Issei turns to God, begging for help. As he continues to pray, Renare appears and continues to taunt him. Angered, Issei evolves his dragon hand into a glove. This power-up shocks Renare, but she copes by striking Issei with 2 lightning spears. To her utter shock, Issei remains unfazed as he stands up yet again. He then activates his sacred gear once more and employs the explosion ability, one-shotting Renare. KO! Right when he's about to fall, Kiba, along with Rias, arrives on the scene, who orders Kiba to stay back, knowing Issei can handle himself. Kaneko returns to the church with Renare, who is now trembling in fear after encountering Rias Gremory, the Great Empress of Annihilation. Rias then suddenly glances over Issei's sacred gear, revealing it's known as Boosted Gear of the Red Dragon Emperor, one of the 13 varieties of Longinus. It automatically doubles its power every 10 seconds, so much so that it can even transcend the power of God and Satan. Cornered, Renare transforms into Yuma, hoping to fool Issei once more. However, this time he ignores all of her pleas and lets Rias destroy her. With everything settled, Issei mourns over Azia's death. As his tears run down his face, Rias employs her evil piece, Bishop, and revives Azia as one of her household members. After the commotion, Issei privately asks Rias about the rest of her pawns. To his utter shock, Rias explains that each human requires an evil piece, and the quantity may differ from human to human. In his case, she used up all of her 8 evil pieces, since he's the only one she needs. After the battle, Rias notices that Issei has a weak physique, so the following morning, she meets with Issei to personally train him. A while later, Azia joins them in the park, but for some reason, Rias spaces out. She then takes Azia and Issei back to his home, where Rias convinces his parents to allow Azia to crash at their place. As time passes, Issei and the others head to school. At the beginning of class, Azia appears and introduces herself as a transfer student, living with Issei. After finishing up classes, they return to the club and find Rias spaced out once again. As she comes back down to earth, Rias asks Azia to make her debut and answer summons, but Issei takes the reins and takes her place. Unfortunately, he fails to make a pact, as the weird summoner makes him watch anime. The day after, Issei feels depressed for disappointing Rias once again, so he decides to skip class and take a nap. Ain't that a mood? A while later, he wakes up to a world full of surprises as Rias is laying next to him. She promises to let him touch her talents if he makes a pact. For extra assurance, Rias accompanies him to the client's house. Turns out she's another weirdo in samurai cosplay who makes him retrieve her notebook from school and then solve her love quarrels. In the evening, they return to the club, where Rias gives him 5 seconds to play with her talents. However, Issei's procrastination gets him nothing. Suddenly, all household members gather, and Rias hugs Issei for his reward. Seeing this, Akeno deduces that Rias is totally into him. On another evening, Issei prepares to distribute summoning flyers. However, Rias informs him that distributing flyers is the job of familiars, and now he and Azia will get one of their own. Out of the blue, Sona Citri, the student council president and another descendant of an esteemed devil family, arrives alongside her household. As their conversation progresses, Genshiro and Issei, the 2 pawns, start off on the wrong foot, as they both argue over whose pawn is better. As they quarrel, Issei boasts that he will attain a familiar of his own. This revelation proves to be a contradiction, as Sona wanted to get her pawn a familiar as well. In the end, the 2 households decide to settle things the high school way. Rias and Akeno tag team the Citri household in an intense game of tennis. However, all their efforts are in vain as the match ends in a draw. After a brief discussion, Rias sets up a dodgeball game with the opposing household. The next night, both household members gather and engage in a fearsome battle. Their dodgeball game soon turns into a death match, but in the end, the Gremory household perseveres. At their next destination, the group ventures into the familiar forest, guided by Toji, a poetic master of familiars. As they explore the forest, hoping to find their own familiars, Azia stumbles upon a rare sprite dragon, and Issei becomes curious about a slime creature, known for its unique talent, the ability to dissolve clothing. Because, of course. However, trouble arises when the dragon attacks Issei's slime, following Azia's feeling of threat. While sleeping, Issei expresses a soothing wet dream, and suddenly the theme changes. Amidst the raging inferno, a shadow emerges, revealing the presence of the Red Dragon Emperor. The dragon explains that his purpose here is to formally introduce himself to his new partner. The next morning, Issei's infamous friends beg him to introduce them to one of his lady friends. However, Issei just ignores their pleas and goes on sightseeing. Unfortunately, his bad luck kicks in and he's discovered by Kaneko, who teaches him a good lesson. After returning from school, Issei gets in his bed when Rias suddenly appears through a magic circle, begging him to take her innocence. Just as they're about to take action, Grafia Lucifuge, Rias Gremory's queen, steps in, ever the fan service blocker. She reminds Rias of her prestigious position, and they both depart, leaving Issei in a state of uncertainty. The next day, as everyone gathers at Occult Club, Riser Phoenix arrives through a magic circle, declaring himself Rias' fiancé. However, Rias is displeased with the decision of her father and brother. Suddenly, the atmosphere gets tense, but as the overseer, Grafia proposes the two parties to engage in a raiding game. The Gremory family relocates to a remote island due to their tight 10-day preparation schedule for the upcoming raiding game. There, they focus on intensive training, instructing the newcomers in various combat styles and magic. After continuous training with Akeno, both Issei and Azia begin to harness their magical powers. However, due to Azia's immense talent, she demonstrates the potential to use multiple spells, which Issei can only manage to peel potatoes. On the following day, Rias reveals a dark history. Long ago, devils, fallen angels, and heavenly angels waged war that nearly wiped out their pure-blooded heritage. Only 3 noble houses remain today: the House of Gremory, the House of Citri, and the House of Phoenix. Confronted with a shortage of manpower, they devised a plan to reincarnate humans into devils. This led to the creation of the raiding game, a way to offer practical training to these newly transformed devils while also showcasing the abilities of the nobles. To change the subject, Rias asks Azia to share her experiences as a holy sister. As night falls, Issei finds Rias lost in thought under the starry sky. She informs him of Riser's unique trait as the embodiment of a phoenix, making him quick to recover from attacks. However, no matter how formidable the enemy, winning is their only option. Witnessing her unwavering resolve, Issei feels a sense of shame for his perceived lack of significant contribution. Rias attempts to comfort him, but his self-confidence issues plunge him into despair. On the morrow, Rias grants Issei permission to wield his sacred gear. Upon employing it, Issei utilizes the boost technique 12 times and combines it with the explosion skill, resulting in the destruction of about half a mountain. Looks like Saitama might finally have a competitor. After 10 days of dedicated training, the time has come for the Gremory household. Everyone gathers in the research club and Grafia arrives to transport the team to an alternate dimension that closely resembles their school. In the occult research club, Rias devises a plan to secure locations near both base camps. She assigns Kiba, Kaneko, and Akeno to set traps around the forest. While inside, she invites Issei to rest his head on her lap. Suddenly, a strange sensation washes over Issei. Rias explains that she used 8 of her pawns to revive him, but had to steal most of his powers because his body couldn't handle them. But now, she's unblocked a portion of his abilities, granting him a last-minute boost. Moments later, Kiba and Issei head out to the gym to confront 3 of Phoenix's pawns and 1 of his rooks. Unexpectedly, they swiftly win the battle, thanks to Issei's new skill. As they exit the gym, they witness the Thunder Priestess, Akeno, unleashing deadly attacks on the enemy. In the forest, Kiba takes on 3 enemy members. Meanwhile, outside the gym, Phoenix's queen launches an aerial strike, defeating Kaneko. Issei panics as he sees Kaneko vanish, but Rias assures him she's safe. Akeno then challenges the opposing queen and urges Issei to keep moving. Suddenly, it's announced that 3 Phoenix pawns are out. In the occult research club, Rias orders Issei and Kiba to deal with the remaining 9 enemies while she plans a sneak attack with Azia. Issei and Kiba confront the Phoenix members directly, surprisingly getting their attention. This diversion allows Rias to head toward the enemy base. Kiba battles the opposing knight and Issei faces the second rook. At first, Issei faces difficulties since his sacred gears require some time to power up. Meanwhile, Kiba is obliterated by the enemy. However, he unveils his sacred gear, Sword Birth, which grants him the ability to conjure magic swords instantly. Issei eventually gets the needed boost and, using his new abilities, defeats the rook. But just when things seem to be going as planned, Rias and Azia are drawn into battle. Rias had anticipated their sneak attack. In desperation, Issei pleads with the Dragon Emperor to unleash his full power. The battlefield crackles with energy as Issei's boosted gear evolves into Second Liberation. Utilizing his newfound strength, he empowers Kiba, allowing him to dispatch a significant number of enemies. At the same time, Phoenix's queen deploys a concealed artifact to heal herself and defeat Akeno. Subsequently, they moved swiftly to overpower Kiba, reducing the Gremory team to just 3 members. Issei, left with no choice, promotes to a queen and rushes to the rooftop to support Rias. Rias, however, anticipates their move and orders his queen to attack. Rias and Issei survive, but Azia faints from shock. Issei exhausts all of his energy but refuses to give up. In frustration, Riser brutally injures him and prepares for the final strike. With no other option, Rias Gremory concedes the match to save her beloved pawn. As the smoke of the battle clears, Issei communicates with the red dragon within him, urging it to embrace its power. As he regains his consciousness, his memories are somewhat hazy. Grafia fills him in on their recent battle, revealing that Rias is currently in the underworld awaiting her engagement. She then expresses her fascination with Issei's potential and provides him a magic circle that transports him to the underworld. Before departing, Issei promises Azia that he will return safely with Rias. Meanwhile, in the underworld, people revel in joyous celebrations. Suddenly, Riser arrives and introduces Rias as his future bride. Their moment is cut short when Issei crashes the party. Riser orders his guards to attack, but Surzex intervenes, wanting to witness the battle between the dragon and the phoenix. Issei and Riser find themselves on the battlefield, and Issei makes a bold demand: Rias' freedom if he emerges victorious. The duel commences, and Issei activates his Welsh Red Dragon Overbooster, transforming his body into armor and delivering a powerful blow to Riser. Despite Riser's regenerative abilities, he starts to experience an excruciating burning sensation from within. Issei then reveals that he had borrowed a cross from Azia, and can now use it since he traded his arm to the dragon. As Issei's power diminishes, he utilizes the last remnants to enhance holy water, causing intense burns to Riser's body. With one final mighty strike, Issei emerges as the victor. In the midst of the chaos, he and Rias soar triumphantly through the skies. And that's the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you at the next one.